Welcome to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Liz Wheeler. We have a great show for you tonight. Let's get started. Tonight, the question of the day, Morning Joe host Mika Brzezinski condemned President Donald Trump for undermining the media, and then she said it was the job of the media to control exactly what we the people think. Slip of the tongue or Freudian slip? In just moments, Isaac Wright weighs in. Then Milo Yiannopoulos caught on tape endorsing relationships between older men and young boys. How can he possibly defend that? And since when did proper grammar become racist? Apparently at the University of Washington Tacoma's Writing Center, punctuation is now considered oppressive. Thanks for being here tonight. As you know, our nation is at a tipping point. We either turn America towards liberty or we risk losing her forever. So let's get started. Our first tipping point tonight. Morning Joe host Mika Brzezinski condemned Donald Trump for undermining the media, and then she said it was the job of the media to control exactly what people think. Slip of the tongue or Freudian slip? This is absolutely striking. A major opinion talk show host on a decidedly liberal network admits that she believes her job is to control what her viewers think. It's appalling. I tweeted about this earlier and somebody asked me on Twitter, well, how's this different than what you do? Well, I'll tell you, I tell you what I think. I wouldn't dream of trying to control what you think. Take a look at Brzezinski's words.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah.
With me now, Democratic strategist and former executive director of Correct the Record Super PAC, Isaac Wright. Isaac, hi, how are you?
Doing good, Liz. How are you? Good evening.
I'm doing well. Thanks for being here. Isaac, let's start with this question of the day today. Like I said in the introduction, that is Morning Joe host Mika Brzezinski. She was condemning Donald Trump for his criticism of the media, for saying that the media was the enemy of the American people. And she said it was the job of the media, not the president. It was the job of the media to control what the people, the American people, were thinking. Isaac, was this a slip of the tongue, bad phrasing, or was this a Freudian slip on her part?
That's not what I heard when I heard that clip. I heard her talking about the ability to portray the facts accurately and to control the information of the facts, to provide the facts to people. And I think that's the job of the media, to provide accurate facts and allow people to make their own decision. Sure, there's opinion television, and there are plenty of shows that provide their opinion to viewers. But ultimately, in our society, the media have a responsibility to report things accurately and truthful.
Right. I don't think there's anything
stops alternative facts.
Right. And I don't think there's anything disputing that. I mean, whether you're on the right or the left, I think the American people in general, in a nonpartisan way, expect their media to be factual, even if they also couple the facts with opinion. I mean, we try very, very hard. We have committed in a very big way on this show to providing the facts before I say my opinion, so that people could ultimately make their own decision that's different than the conclusion that I drew. But to ignore what she said, I mean, she was criticizing President Trump for what she said, making up facts that ultimately would lead to thought control of the people. And then she said, that's our job in the media to do that. I mean, I don't think that's not something that even Democrats are going to want to defend here.
Again, maybe it was a poor choice of words. I think in the full context, what she was trying to make the statement was that a politician doesn't have a right to invent their own facts to alter the truth, which is what President Trump and his administration have made a habit of from the era of their campaign up to the era of the White House. I don't think anybody defends the president and Sean Spicer over completely inaccurate and wrong numbers and boastful statements about the size of the crowd at the inauguration, all the way up to problems telling the truth about when they knew about Michael Flynn's relationship with Russian ambassadors and what information was going back and forth. The point is, and I think the point that she was trying to make, perhaps inartfully, was that there's a truth and that the media has a job to report the truth. And a politician shouldn't have the right to create alternative facts to manufacture an alternative truth.
Right. I agree with you. Politicians have a responsibility to be honest here, but let me just focus on the media for a second. I mean, we don't need to get into President Trump's arguments or claims about his ratings. I don't care about his ratings on Inauguration Day. I don't think one way or the other it represents what the American people think of him or what they thought of Obama, depending on the crowd size. Too many factors go into there. I don't care about that at all. I don't think a lot of the American people do either. But when you talk about the responsibility of the mainstream media to be factual.
I think that was the point she was making.
Right, but when you talk about the responsibility of the media to be factual, looking over the past year during the primary season and then the campaign for the general election, do you feel that the media in general has been accurate, has been unbiased, has presented just the facts, just the truth?
Well, I think there was definitely an overflow of attention to things like Hillary Clinton's emails and emails back and forth about whether or not she wanted her tea with lemon or with sugar. And I think there was a lot of lack of attention and focus in the press to things like Donald Trump's taxes and the fact that he is the first president in modern history not to turn over his taxes. We still don't know his financial interests. That's a major question.
I mean, I don't know what news sites you're looking at, but I saw hundreds.
Hold on, we just found out this week.
I saw hundreds of articles about Donald Trump's tax. I mean, people are still talking about that, and he's been elected president. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other now. What's on his taxes, it's not going to affect whether people vote for him. I mean, I'm talking about fake news. I'm talking about bias. I'm talking about stories that come from the mainstream media that they're reporting in such a way, perhaps either just skewed or sometimes even straight up inaccurate reporting, inaccurate facts, lying, fake news that purports their agendas. And I mean, I can give you not just hypotheticals. I made a list of some of the ones, and these have just happened since the election of Donald Trump. I mean, the mainstream media reported a story that there was a spike in transgender suicides after Donald Trump was elected, after the November elections. It turned out to be false. They didn't research that. It just backed up their agenda that gay people were going to feel targeted if Donald Trump was elected president. I mean, they reported that Nancy Sinatra had a problem with President Trump using her late husband's song at his inauguration because they wanted Hollywood. They wanted to portray it as if Hollywood was rejecting President Trump. Nancy Sinatra never did that. I mean, we had the story about Martin Luther King Jr.'s bust in the White House that Donald Trump reportedly, and I put that in quotes, reportedly removed that. It wasn't true, but the story was written because they wanted to paint him as a racist. I mean, Isaac, when you look at these stories, there's clearly an agenda behind them. It's not just errors.
So if that's the case, then what's the agenda with the fact that there haven't been stories about Donald Trump's taxes on the front page? When was the last time you saw an evening newscast lead with the fact that the man's now been president for a month? We still don't know his financial ties and motivations over the last decades of the man that leads the free world right now. Just this week, we found out that during the campaign and even during the transition phase, Trump was applying for trademarks in multiple foreign nations across the country, preparing to do business and continued business with foreign governments.
Trump organization
in foreign nations while he's sitting as our president. So what's the problem with full disclosure? And why isn't the media reporting the lack of it?
Right. I don't think anyone's arguing that the Trump organization is moving forward. He didn't shut down the Trump organization, his business dealings, because he's president. He handed them over to his children. He said he was completely separating himself. I know that there's a disagreement.
If that's not a problem, why wouldn't he just provide the truth? All it is, just turn it over. If there's no problem, if there's no
Isaac,
issue, if there's
with all due
no
respect,
scandal,
I feel like talking
why
about
wouldn't
the taxes,
Donald Trump just tell the truth? That's
right.
all anybody's asked him to do.
Right, and I understand
just tell the truth, Donald.
I understand that, but I feel like talking about taxes in this sense is a bit of
So would you join the call on Donald Trump to tell the truth and turn over his taxes?
No, I don't care about his taxes at this point.
In modern history?
I don't care about his taxes at this point.
Well,
I don't care about his taxes at this point. I can't say that any clearer. I do care about the fact that the media has an agenda. The media has an agenda. There have been so many stories on that.
Exactly. It doesn't care about things like Donald Trump's taxes. And what are the financial motivations of the man leading the free world? I think you just admitted that you yourself don't care about that. You don't care to see that information. Every other president in modern history has turned over and provided that information to the American public before they even were elected. And Donald Trump refused to, and you just admitted that doesn't matter.
Isaac, let me ask you this question.
That's
Isaac,
exactly the point. That's
Isaac,
the agenda and the bias we're talking about.
What motivation do you believe the mainstream media has for reporting on fake hate crimes allegedly committed against Muslims since Donald Trump's election, when those hate crimes were made up? They didn't happen. Why would the media report on that as if it were true before they investigated when it was in fact not true? Why would they report on Donald Trump threatening to invade Mexico when he has not ever threatened to invade Mexico? Why would they report that people resigned from the State Department because they were displeased with President Trump when in fact that's the normal transitional type of token resignations that can be accepted or denied? We're talking about the agenda behind the bias in the mainstream media stories. I mean, this is either very, very poor reporting. I mean, these people are just very bad at their jobs, or they have an agenda behind it. Does that not bother you at all?
Well, I think that's the one point we can agree on. Clearly, there is some kind of an agenda or faulty reporting. It's the question of what's getting reporting. You're asking about factual errors in newsrooms that I couldn't have been there to talk about. My question is what is the institutional bias that there is a standard of truth and transparency set for every American president in our modern lifetimes, and yet there's a different double standard for this president? He is allowed to get away with a lack of transparency and a lack of truth that would not be allowed by the media with any other major president.
Right, and I guess I'm just shocked. I mean, I understand that you don't support Donald Trump, just like I didn't support Hillary Clinton, but I'm shocked that you didn't feel this type of outrage when Hillary Clinton wasn't telling us about Benghazi, when President Obama didn't tell us about Fast and Furious, when the Obama administration didn't talk about the IRS scandal. I mean, those are standard precedents of transparency that we did not experience. Now you care about taxes?
They supported. The question is on the table, is there outrage over a bias in the media? I've raised a legitimate point about a lack of coverage of a common fact in modern American politics. And I've asked, where's the outrage for it? And
right,
you yourself have said,
I am running out of time here.
You don't see a need for one. So I guess my point is,
and Isaac, I am running out of time here. Let me say one last thing here.
Let
me say one last thing here. You did neglect to mention the point, and I don't, like I said, I don't care that much about Donald Trump's tax returns. But you didn't neglect to mention the fact that the IRS is auditing him and has been auditing him, and he said he would release them once the audit is complete. And as far as we know, and you and I both know the same amount of things, it has not been completed. Isaac, like I said, I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time. Come back again soon, though. Thanks.